It was the winter of 1997 when my friends and I decided to embark on an adventure that would forever haunt our nightmares. We were fearless teenagers, eager to prove our bravery and satiate our curiosity about the local legend known as the Willowbrook Asylum. The asylum, nestled deep within the woods, had been abandoned for decades, shrouded in eerie tales of suffering and madness. Our journey began on a bitterly cold Friday night. Armed with flashlights, snacks, and an unyielding sense of invincibility, we ventured into the desolate forest. The moon's pale light barely penetrated the dense canopy, casting eerie shadows on the uneven ground. Despite our trembling nerves, we pressed on, fueled by the intoxicating blend of fear and excitement. As we approached the asylum's looming silhouette, a tangible sense of dread settled upon us. The building stood as a grotesque monument to a bygone era of mental health care, its windows boarded up like blind eyes, and the once white walls now stained with age and decay. Pushing open a rusted gate, we entered the asylum grounds. The air grew colder, and a whispering wind seemed to beckon us closer. Our footsteps echoed through the courtyard as we moved toward the entrance, our flashlights casting eerie shadows against the peeling wallpaper. The first sign that something was amiss came when we stumbled upon an old wooden wheelchair, its wheels caked with dried mud and leaves. It seemed to have been abandoned hastily, as though its occupant had vanished into thin air. I shivered, my breath visible in the frigid air. Inside the asylum, the darkness was oppressive, and the silence was broken only by the creaking of floorboards beneath our feet. Graffiti-covered walls bore witness to countless previous intruders, but nothing could have prepared us for what we were about to experience. We entered a narrow corridor, and the air grew icy. My flashlight flickered, and a sense of unease washed over me. That's when we heard it, a faint, mournful wail echoing through the hallways. My heart raced as I exchanged wide-eyed glances with my friends. We followed the sound, our footsteps echoing like a funeral dirge. The wailing grew louder, more anguished, as if it were a chorus of tormented souls. I swallowed hard, my throat dry and constricted. The corridor led us to a set of heavy steel double doors. I reached for the handle, and as I pushed them open, the sight that greeted us was a tableau of horror. Before us lay a room filled with rusted, decrepit beds. On each one, emaciated figures lay still, their hollow eyes staring into nothingness. Their bony hands reached out, as if beseeching us for salvation. The wailing emanated from these tormented souls, their cries echoing off the walls. One of my friends gasped, and we recoiled in shock. These were not just old mannequins or props. They were real bodies' mummified remains, frozen in a grotesque dance of suffering. We stumbled backward, retreating from the room, our minds unable to comprehend the grotesque scene before us. As we retraced our steps through the labyrinthine hallways, the asylum seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. Shadows moved on their own, and distant whispers filled the air. Panic set in as we realized that the exit was nowhere to be found. The asylum was a maze that defied logic and reason, its layout shifting and changing with each step we took. Hours passed, and our flashlights dimmed, their batteries drained. Fear gnawed at us, threatening to consume our sanity. We began to hear the voices of the long-dead patients, their tormented cries growing louder and more insistent. They whispered dreadful secrets and beckoned us deeper into the asylum's depths. In our frantic attempts to escape, we stumbled upon a room that defied all reason. It was a surgical theater, complete with rusty instruments and an operating table stained with dried blood. The walls were adorned with faded photographs of doctors in archaic attire, their faces contorted in expressions of sadistic glee. As I gazed upon the photographs, a sudden realization struck me like a lightning bolt. The doctors in the pictures bore an uncanny resemblance to the figures we had seen on the mummified beds. It was as if they were the architects of the patient's torment, their malevolent presence lingering in the very walls of the asylum. Desperation overcame us, and we frantically searched for an exit. The asylum seemed to mock our efforts, leading us in circles and sealing doors behind us. It was as if the building itself had become our captor, a malevolent force determined to keep us within its nightmarish embrace. Hours turned into days, or so it seemed, as we wandered through the endless corridors. Our food and water had long run out, and exhaustion threatened to claim us. The voices of the tormented grew louder, their anguish echoing in our minds. Just when hope had all but abandoned us, we stumbled upon a decrepit staircase leading upward. We climbed, our legs aching and trembling, until we emerged into the blinding light of day. The asylum had released its grip on us, and we tumbled out into the overgrown courtyard. We had no recollection of how we had escaped, but we knew one thing for certain: we had glimpsed the true horror that lay within the walls of Willowbrook Asylum. It was a place where the suffering of the forgotten had become an eternal torment, and where the malevolent spirits of its past still clung to the world of the living. To this day, I cannot erase the images of those mummified figures, their eyes forever haunted and accusing. The asylum may have released us physically, but it had left an indelible mark on our souls. We were forever changed, forever haunted by the true close encounter with the horrors that lurk in the darkest corners of our world.